Welcome to the Monday Devotional here at the Order of Eden. Today, I just want to share a very basic text with you that you've probably heard, but I think could use quite a bit more contemplation. So I've been in the Old Testament for a while, but today we're going to look at the book of Matthew, look in the Gospels. So today I'm in Matthew chapter 16, verse 21. From that time forth began Jesus to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem, and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. Then in verse 24, Then Jesus said unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross, and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited, if he shall gain the whole world, and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? You've probably heard some of those later verses that I read, but it's important to notice that it comes right after Jesus saying that he is going to suffer, that he's going to go to Jerusalem to suffer many things. He's going to go to Jerusalem to be put on the cross. So Jesus shows his disciples what he will do. And then he gives them a picture of what they're expected to do. And he presents it as two parts. Initially, it's an if-then statement. If any man will follow me, then let him deny himself. And then he gives a why. It says that because whoever saves their life will lose it, and whoever gives his life for Christ's sake will find it. Talks about a soul exchange. What does it profit a man? He gives another argument. What does it profit someone if they gain the whole world and lose their soul? So what's the idea here? What do we gain? What do we suffer? What do we deny? What is our cross? Did he literally expect all of his followers to be crucified like he did? Did he expect everyone who followed Jesus to die for his name? No, I don't believe so. Though in the early church, that was a distinct possibility. And in many places around the world, people still suffer and die for Jesus every day. But I don't think that's what he's getting at here. And I don't think this is necessarily about salvation, even with the idea of losing your soul. That doesn't seem consistent with the rest of the Bible's view of salvation. It's not if you do specific things, you can go to heaven. That's never been the message. So what is this talking about? He says, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself. Deny himself what? Just anything? Any good thing? I want that bowl of ice cream. No, deny yourself. That might be helpful at certain points in your life. But I don't think that's the point. In these statements, he wants people to recognize that a lot of the earthly things that we consider very important are not the highest priority. Many things are extremely important in your life. But we don't always go after the right things. We don't always do things that are good for us. We don't always do things that are good for others because of sin and desires and impulses and brokenness. That's the self we need to deny. Those parts are the things we deny. We deny the things that are not ultimately of true value. And what of taking up your cross? Who would say that? A cross was an ancient device for torture and death. Is that what we're to take up? Just any and all form of torture? No, of course not. If you remember, this begins with Jesus saying what will happen to him. And in taking up our cross, we imitate what he did. Not that we die for the sins of others, not that we have to die physically, but there's a suffering and a death that particularly leads to glory. What is meant to die on the cross is this same small self, this false self, this sinful self, the one we were supposed to deny just a sentence before. We put to death our sin, our impulses, our addictions, our greed, our selfishness. And like the Apostle Paul, we say that I die daily. And when that has had its perfect work, we can say with the Apostle Paul, it's not I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Because the other things have been crucified. The other things have been put to death. And Jesus says, whoever shall save his life, the life of these lesser things, the worldly things, whoever will save that temporary life will lose access to a greater life. And he says it differently. What does it profit someone if they gain the whole world and lose their soul? And again, Jesus never asked us to work for our salvation. Our salvation comes from his work, his completed work, his victory on the cross. So what does this mean? It's almost as if inside of us, we have the ability to be more in tune with the eternal, more in tune with the image of God inside of us, something that he calls the soul, the thing that doesn't perish, or through giving into everything else, through focusing on our sin and focusing on our petty, temporary things. We get wrapped up in that, and we lose focus on the truest part, the only thing that ever really mattered. And we tend to be big on salvation, and we should be. That's important. The understanding of sin, of what it cost Jesus, of the victory that he attained, his death, burial, and resurrection, and following him. We should focus on that. But if we're to continue following him, what does that cost? What does that take? What does it take to be like Jesus? If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me.